All right. Hello, all. Thank you for joining the Human Libraries of Procurement podcast. We call it Human Libraries of Procurement because of three basic elements: the human connect, the libraries part, which shows knowledge and wisdom, and procurement because we talk about procurement. One such Human Libraries of Procurement is Urszula Woronowicz. I don't
Okay,
know if
so
I right.
maybe I will do it myself. My name is Urszula Woronowicz.
Urszula Woronowicz. I think I got
Yes,
that right now. Okay.
more or less.
So, Urszula, thank you for doing this. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm great, and thank you for having me. I'm really honored.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you again. Urszula, we'll start with your career journey, how you landed in procurement, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so actually, my whole professional life is about procurement, and even my first job, my first decent job, was related to public procurement and a governmental agency. And it was coincidence. It was not conscious decision. In Poland was back then in a very bad economical condition, and I was desperate to work, to find any work. And it happened that I got a job in public procurement office, but I really liked it, and I met there many wonderful people, young people, and it was the place where I learned a lot about public procurement, but it was mostly theory because I was responsible for drafting administrative decisions. And after 5 years, I moved on and I started to work for contracting authority, and I learned how to run public procurement, run tenders. And it was very demanding because public procurement is demanding. You have to act in accordance with rules such as fair competition, equal treatment, transparency, and most of my tenders were also co-financed from the EU funds. So we were audited all the time. I remember that one of my tender was audited 4 times. So every step we took, every decision had to be legally justified, and we had to be very careful. So because even one mistake in the procedure could result in the obligation to cancel the tender. So it was like primary school for me. But it was excellent experience. Next step in my career path was it was 2020, and I started to work for a company, state-owned company. Mm-hmm. So I still was responsible for public procurement, but also for non-public procurement, because below a certain quota limit, we were allowed to run non-public procedures. So right. It was the place where I learned negotiations, because we could run those non-public procedures. And this company was the biggest company in energy sector in Poland. So the structure is quite complex, because in the capital group there are different business lines. For example, mines, power plants, renewable sector, energy trading. For example, I run procedures for 20 companies. Imagine that this kind of procedure, creating RFP and launching this kind of procedure is very challenging, because before you even start, you have so many internal negotiations that even agreeing on the scope is a great challenge. I remember one of my tenders that before we launched the procedure, we were discussing the scope for over 2 years. And it was it was crazy, and it was office supplies. So it wasn't something complicated, yeah.
Right.
We wanted to limit the assortment and standardize it, but the amount of discussions and internal negotiations was just mind-blowing. It was so hard to standardize the assortment, but finally it was a big success with a big savings. And in this company 7 years, and of course in such a big organization you are engaged in different kind of projects, not only procurement procedures. So I was engaged in SAP implementation. I was supervising the team that was responsible for a blueprint for module. I was engaged, for example, in a project for cost reduction and optimizing the processes in a mine. It was a complex mine and power plant. I was engaged in projects that were run together with CSR compliance, because I was always interested in this kind of topics. So I was engaged in creating code of conduct, engaged in a project of building nuclear power plant. I was engaged in wind farms and many others. For me, it was great because I launched my own company, consulting company in the field of procurement, of course. And at first we assumed that we will support our clients in procurement, and we will do trainings. We were organizing public procurement trainings. But then we started to cooperate with a big company from energy sector, and we were supporting them in IT projects. So I was working for 2 years as a PM of IT projects, and I also negotiated many IT contracts for them. During this period of my own company, and just before COVID and just before the first lockdown, I acquired a new client, and I started to support this client in a huge greenfield project. It was in Germany, and it was construction of a salt plant.
Right.
And I spent there on this project 3 years. It was very challenging. We were understaffed and the pressure was crazy. We were over budget, of course, at the very beginning. Right. And we had to work 100% remotely. So this was a huge change for me, because I had to negotiate contracts on Teams. When everybody at the meeting have cameras off and microphones off. So sometimes I had the impression that I'm talking to the wall, yeah, because I couldn't hear the other the counterparty, and I couldn't see them. So, but after 3 years, I was exhausted. I experienced burnout, and I started to ask myself existential questions. So yeah, I had to decide what is important for me, what are my priorities, what I want to do, what I like to do, and I decided to quit my own company.
Wow.
And and I sold my shares and decided to become freelancer, because one of the most important value for me is freedom.
Right.
So yeah, now it's been like 3 years. I work as a freelancer. I have one client, and I cooperate with a company in renewable energy sector. This is a Polish company, and I have a lot of freedom because I can say that I am One Woman Procurement Department. So I decide about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we run investment projects. We build solar and wind farms. So the sector is very interesting. Still energy sector, renewables. So I'm very grateful that I have an opportunity to work with this kind of company. And one of the biggest priorities for this fund and my client is ESG. So long story short, now now I'm just a buyer and negotiator.
Lots of good experience. Well done. And it's such an inspirational story, right? You started off with a company in Poland, and then there is a lot of things actually: public procurement, fair trade, and then we went to RFQs and all that. Burnout, and your own company, and lots of things to take, and how the journey takes over, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I was also surprised with my decision,
Right.
because
We could talk about the burnout phase and all, because that's a huge learning for all professionals, I think. First, I need to say 2 disclaimers. One is that although we might be talking about a lot of companies, we are not representing any company here. We are on our own individual capacities. And the second one is, if anyone has anything to say or any question, please put them on chat. I'll read it out, and then also I can answer them accordingly. One comment that came up from Alex when you were talking about the stationery and office supplies, he says, everyone is a buyer when it comes to stationery, car, and travel.
yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Urszula, again, going back to the energy sector and a lot of good experience there, I would like to start with ESG, because that's that's a huge important thing.
ESG is quite new topic in Poland. Although, as I previously said, I was engaged in some CSR activities and non-financial reporting, but it was a very big company. These kind of companies are always the leaders. For my client, ESG is not obligatory. We do this voluntarily. We still are not obliged to by any regulation to do this, but that's why I'm so proud of it that we did it, and we managed to structure our procurement process in such a way that we implemented ESG in it, and not only in the procurement process, because we divided this ESG full screening of our suppliers in 3 stages. So first one is procurement procedure, and at the very beginning we sent together with RFP a questionnaire, and our potential offerers, bidders, has to fill it in and answer our questions. And this questionnaire has around 40 questions. We ask about policies, whether they identify any ESG risks on their side. We ask about ESG policy, code of conduct, procurement procedures, anti-bribery procedures, and so on, whether they follow any standards like ISO, whether they monitor CO2, or do they have waste management system, water management system, and so on. This kind of questions, and of course are also related to social factors like human rights, modern slavery, or forced labor or child labor. So this is quite short questionnaire, and we want our suppliers to fill it in, and of course not only answer yes, no, but also put some kind of explanation and give us documents that confirm what they stated. So after they fill it in, they send it to us, and we engaged external advisor, and this advisor were evaluating those questionnaires. So if the evaluation was positive, they could stay in our procedure. Then when we are ready with shortlist, and for example we have 2, 3 the best bidders we want to continue negotiations with, then we order 3 audits. And those audits are on site, suppliers' facilities. So first it is ESG audit, general ESG audit, general quality audit, because technical one, because we want to be sure that quality we require will be delivered, and they have the capacity to deliver this quality. And the last one, very important, especially we sourced from China, is traceability and supply chain mapping. And positive result of those audits were the condition to conclude the contract.
Right.
So that was the second check. And then when we concluded the contract, of course, in the contract, we also have some very important provisions regarding ESG and traceability. The production was completed, the report, and we check whether our producer used raw materials and components we'll use to produce our products. So that was like post-production confirmation that he used raw materials and components he promised to use. And it is very important when you want to have full traceability, for example, in PV modules, you have to pay more. So, and of course, we agreed on a little bit higher price. But it wasn't significant. So it is really worth doing it, this extra mile. So calculate how much CO2 was generated during production of our key supplies, during transport, and during construction works on our construction site.
So CO2 emissions.
Yes, exactly. So
Right.
we get this report after construction works are completed, because during all construction works we collect the data on, for example, usage of water, electricity, and we monitor wastes and fuel consumptions and so on.
Right.
So we have to collect all those data, and then we can get the full report on CO2. And we have another report. But this is the last one. We also engage in external auditor to audit our construction site. So he has to come to our construction site, check documents, observe how we work on the construction site, who works, whether all health and safety requirements are met. He checks some technical stuff, and of course also our impact on environment, on biodiversity, and so on. So this is quite complex, and this is last report we get for our projects. So this is how we structured this. And I think it is quite complementary, but we are still learning.
Right. Now, the best part is most of the ESGs that at least I have seen or I've heard from people are mostly the check in the box kind of thing. When you are doing it just to show that you're compliant, right? But what you explain is very comprehensive. It just shows that how serious things would be if procurement is serious about ESG. This is a great share. Thank you for that. I have a few comments here in the chat. I'll read it out one by one. We'll start with Margaret. Margaret says negotiation contracts on teams must have been very tough.
It was tough.
That's one.
Yeah.
I think we'll talk about negotiation in more details later. I have a question from Richard.
I'm sorry, but it is quite common in my sector that nobody turns on cameras.
even harder.
Yeah, I remember that when we were negotiating with Polish companies, nobody was with cameras on. But when we were negotiating with German companies, they switched on cameras.
Right. And I have a question from Richard. Richard says, how has procurement in Poland evolved in the past, let's say, 10 years? So what changes have you seen in procurement for Poland?
Actually, that really depends. It depends on the company. Because I was quite lucky and I was working in quite mature organizations. And we were building procurement strategies, we were managing categories, we were implementing not only SAP, but also procurement platforms. So, and I thought it is a standard, yeah? But, last week, I had a conversation with my friend. She changed job, and she said, "Ula, do you know how they work here? We have some kind of system workflow, and I make some approvals in the system, and then my employees print out those decisions, I don't know, reports, decisions, whatever, and they bring it to her for a hand signature.
Right.
Probably in many companies, we are quite advanced. Procurement processes are very well structured, and but there are still many companies that work like this.
Right. Right. I remember when I started off, I was actually running around with papers asking for signatures, and then digital signature came, and that was like a huge leap for me, right? But yeah, some companies are still doing it. I accept that.
But you know, even if, because we use digital signature, and this is quite obvious for us, but still, if we have to go to some offices, local authorities, not everybody accepts digital signature. And for example, you hear, I cannot accept this because I cannot verify this digital signature. And what can you do?
Right.
You have to sign it by hand, just to push your project forward. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do at times.
Yeah.
I have a comment from Karima before we move to negotiation and further discussions. I have a comment from Karima. She says, you have a rich experience, Urszula. Well done on your journey. She has a question. I'll break it down. First one is, if you have to pick a sector in procurement, what would that be?
I really like my sector. I like energy sector, and this is my choice. And I can tell you why I like working with this client. I like it because they have because we have this external financing. We have to report to the fund, so and we are obliged to implement ESG in our procedures. So I like this. I like ESG. I like procurement. I like working in international teams. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I can source some products from China, because it is also a great adventure and great challenge for me. So all those factors force me to get out of my comfort zone and to learn new things.
Right. Okay, I have a comment from Alex. Alex says about Poland. Poland's economy is aiming ahead this year with projected real GDP growth being 3.2% to 3.4%. And UK and the rest of Europe is predicting as 0.09 to 1%. What do you think is driving this great performance? Is there anything that Poland is doing right?
Actually, in renewables, what's going on is crazy, because it's really blooming. And I think we still have a lot to do in renewables and to change in green transformation from coal to green energy. So in my sector, we invest a lot. So I'm not sure if I'm competent to discuss other sectors. But yeah, in energy sector, we are blooming.
Right. I have a feeling that Alex might know the reason.
Yeah,
so he might,
exactly. So maybe he should share with us.
Right.
What is?
We'll move on with negotiation. So your general views as to negotiation, and I see a lot of posts from you about negotiation. So good post there. What are your views on negotiation?
This is very fascinating topic because human nature is fascinating, and I want to still learn about this. And I read a lot about human psychology, about our brains, how our brain works. And maybe that's why I post so much about negotiations, because I really find it interesting. And what is interesting for me, that I think that in negotiations, tactics and strategies are not that important than your self-conscious. Because if you want to be a good negotiator, you have to be aware of your weaknesses, your strengths. You have to be aware how you react on anger, how you react on flattery. You have to learn how to manage your emotions. You have to learn how to manage others' emotions. And actually, you don't win negotiations with dominance, anger, or aggression. I think that even you don't have to be the most intelligent person in the room, but if you can manage emotions during the meeting, you will win. And this is really amazing for me. One of the most important things in negotiations is to understand the difference between perception and perspective. And so the perception is our personal filter. So this is how, in a very subjective way, we perceive the world. And our perception, our view of our world is shaped by our senses, our experience, our knowledge, our cultural background, religion, and so on. And this is very subjective. So I live in my own reality, subjective reality, and you live in your very subjective reality. So even when we discuss the same thing, our perception can be totally different. So, for example, imagine that this is iPhone, yeah? So for me, for example, this iPhone can be a symbol of my economical status, yes? Right. And for you, it could be just a device, just a tool that you use to do your job, and that's it. And our perception is your perception is totally different than mine. So very important in negotiations and in life in general, because this you can use it also in your personal life, is to step out of your subjective reality and try to understand other party perspective. So try to imagine how they live, what are their beliefs, motivations, what is important for them, how they see the problem from their point of view, where are the risks, for example, for them. And this mental shift, which is not really easy, can give you broader understanding, better understanding of people, and helps you to influence people and their decisions. So I say that this is not easy because many people just don't listen to others. They just want to dominate them. They want other people to think like, that this is the easy path. Yeah, it would be very easy if you would think like me, understand the world like me, and but that's not how it works. So very narrow group of people can really understand the other's perspective and just step out of your perception. And of course you can train it, and you can try to silence your inner voice. You try to observe people, observe how they behave. You have to listen deeply and listen both what is said and what is unsaid, because many times the real message is between lines.
Right.
Yeah. And of course we have to use our imagination to imagine how this subjective world of other person looks like. What are their pressures, histories, background stories, and you have to be very. You have to ask yourself, how, what am I missing from their point of view, or where are the risks from their point of view? So when you learn this, you will be much better negotiator. So it is not about tactics and not about strategies. It's more like soft skills, better understanding of the world and other person, and many great negotiators talks about it. And for example, Chris Voss and his tactical empathy. I also saw a great podcast interview with Andrew Bustamante, former CIA spy, and he was talking about this. Right. So I think this is the first thing you can work on to improve your negotiating skills.
A lot of good points there. I think what you touched on, empathy, listening, more than talking. I think a lot of problem solving as well. We in a negotiation we are actually solving problems, and how to do it more constructive ways.
Exactly, resolving conflicts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and for example, during contract negotiations, when my counterparty is a good negotiator, and we discuss, for example, very difficult part of the contract, some provisions, we just put aside the wording and we focus on intentions, on our common goal. We discuss our risks. We want to explain what risk we want to secure with these provisions. So it is more about common understanding and common intentions.
Right. And one quote that I like about negotiation is that it is not a boxing match. It is more like a dance, and you have to treat the other guy like your partner in dance. The more you collaborate, the better the moves are, rather than fighting it out. Nice tips there on negotiation. Anything you would like to add in negotiation? Any metrics or principles? I know it's a very huge topic. Anything that might come to your mind?
You have to be, of course, confident, but the confidence comes from good preparation. So preparation is the key always, because if you know that you are prepared, you are more confident and you can be calmer during negotiations. Don't take anything personally, because people will test you.
Right.
with different, maybe sometimes strange statements or questions. So we have to have thick skin. And sometimes
Right.
we have to be a little bit crazy
Right.
and provoke other side. So I like the expression rattle the tiger's cage
Right.
and see what happens. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, of course, respect and active listening and so on. Yes, I do agree, and I always respect my counterparty, but sometimes I test them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think those two things, the rattling of the tiger's cage, the thick skin, and testing and crazy. I think those are things that procurement has.
I think we are under pressure, and we have to vent somehow.
Right. Yeah.
From time to time.
Right. I have a comment here from Alex. Alex, and this is regarding negotiation. He says, fall forward, learn from mistakes. So, preparation is the key. And the other thing that helps is if you keep a journal for negotiation, you know as to which worked, and you improve as you go ahead on negotiations. So that's a good point as well. One follow-up comment from the Polish GDP. He says some of the reasons for Poland doing so well is public investment, infrastructure, energy, digital, green, supported by EU funds. So yeah, so I think we'll move on. We talked a lot about negotiation. We'll move on to the social media aspect. As I said, you have a few very good posts that I have seen.
Thank you.
LinkedIn, Alchemy, social media mean for you, and how do you see it?
There are some aspects, and the first one is a community. This is a place to exchange opinions, to discuss things, and as you know, our profession is very niche. Procurement is a small niche, so there are not many people who understand what I do professionally. Even my closest friends, I'm not sure whether they understand what I do.
Right.
So it is nice to have some friends all over the world that understand what procurement is, and you can even exchange some opinions and discuss some stuff. So this is about people, and I don't earn on LinkedIn. I don't sell any services on LinkedIn. So for me, this is actually pure entertainment, because I like maybe not pure entertainment, something that keeps me sharp and force me to learn, to grow. Because sometimes I write a post in 15 minutes and it's spontaneous, and sometimes I prepare a post for a week because I do some research, I have to read something, cross-check, and so on. So I learn a lot. When I write about something, I learn. So this is not only about how smart I am and how much about knowledge I want to share. I also learn during the process. I like playing with Canva.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I really enjoy Canva and CapCut, and I like this is a kind of this is something different I do for a living. So yeah.
Yeah, it lets you get into that creative aspect of it, right? So it
Yeah.
works for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because procurement can be about numbers and process. I mean, we have soft skills, but not that creative in that sense. Maybe innovation, but creativity is something that I think the posts and all, those are letting it go. Otherwise, we only had PPTs to create and show our creativity there.
That's why I like to go to the construction site from time to time to see what I do.
Right.
And you can see there, this is my helmet,
Right.
I have to wear it when I go to the construction site. Yeah.
That's nice. Now, about social media, and the other thing that I wanted to talk about, the social media also is kind of telling the story of procurement, right? So it's about storytelling. How important is storytelling for procurement?
Not only in procurement, also in negotiating, it is very important to know how to communicate with people, how to influence them with our stories, how to promote our job, because I think we still have to promote procurement in our organizations, because people don't understand what we do, and we can do a lot, really. And those posts about strategic function, about engaging procurement earlier, are still valid, and we have to change it by ourselves, by our stories. We have to be able to go to our stakeholders with story they will buy. So this is, communication is a basis of everything. Yeah.
Right.
If people understand our story, they will help us, and they will be willing to cooperate with us. So.
Yeah, and I always tell this thing that if you're not telling your side of the story, then you're the bad guy in somebody else's story, right? So, telling story is very important.
Yeah.
Your point of view is very important. Any fresher that is listening to this, what would be your advice? Advice is a big word, but what do you say about procurement as a career to a fresher?
I'm not objective because I really like my job, and I think you can, the experience is very valuable. And for example, if you plan at some point to launch your own business, experience from procurement is just priceless, because if you work in procurement, you have to cooperate in every department in the organization. And not only you know what they buy, but you have to understand why they buy, because they have to justify their needs, and they have to explain you their requirements. So you know why they buy and what is their goal. And so after a while, you understand how the organization function. It is easier to run your own business with this kind of experience. But one thing, because I really sometimes think about how my career would develop if I would work remotely, because now since COVID I work remotely, but I think that this is very convenient for me, but I'm experienced. I don't need interaction in the office, because I know what I have to do and how to run those RFPs, and I don't need any support. But when you are at the beginning of your career, I think you should try to work in the office, because you in the office you can find a mentor, you can observe elder colleagues, with more experienced colleagues at work. And when you work remotely, you have to talk to anybody, you have to set a meeting or call. And when you are in the office, you have so many interactions, spontaneous interactions, and you learn every day. So I would really recommend to work in the office when you are at this early stage, because if you are looking for the mentor, those people with huge experience are very busy, so they cannot give you your time. But when you are at the office, you can meet them by coffee machine, in the canteen, in the corridor, and you can discuss some stuff just like that. And it is really easier to learn, and it really can accelerate your career just by being in the office.
Okay. I have a comment from Alex. He says, totally agree. I feel the graduates starting out should go to office and learn more of procurement there. That's the point of this podcast as well, the human libraries. I learned a lot from my seniors. I consider them as human libraries. I learned a lot from you in today's podcast as well. The only comment that is left is from Richard. Richard says, thank you both, great session and insights. So before we close, Urszula, is there anything that you would like to add or would like to say?
I cannot thank you at the end. Yeah.
And Margaret also says, it has been a great session. Thank you, two of you. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to thank for all comments and for big thank you for our audience. And you.
Right. Urszula, it has been a great session, a lot of learning. For me, I hope it is a lot of learning for those who hear it afterwards as well. Thank you for doing this. There are a lot of things that I could have, discussed as well. So there is a round 2 for sure if we get there someday. Thank you again for your time. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day then. Bye-bye.
And see you on Alchemy Network and LinkedIn. Bye.
Sure. Bye-bye.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel.